The Janitor's Secret Scholarship, which you're about to witness, will challenge everything you think you know about heroes, education, and the power of quiet compassion. This is the extraordinary story of Robert Williams, a school janitor whose 30-year secret would shock an entire nation and prove that sometimes the most profound acts of kindness happen in complete silence, hidden from the world until one moment of truth changes everything. You'll see the exact moment when Steve Harvey stops being a game show host and becomes a witness to one of the most beautiful examples of human generosity ever captured on television. Watch as a man who spent 3 decades cleaning hallways reveals he's been quietly changing lives, one student at a time, with a secret that will leave you speechless. This isn't just another heartwarming Family Feud moment. This is the story that reminded America that heroes don't always wear capes or hold important titles. Sometimes they wear janitor uniforms and carry keys that unlock more than just classroom doors. Picture the Family Feud studio on what appears to be another routine Wednesday afternoon taping in Atlanta, Georgia. The lights cast their familiar warm glow across the set, creating that perfect television atmosphere that has welcomed millions of families into their living rooms for decades. 300 audience members fill the studio, their excited energy building toward another episode of America's favorite game show. You're looking at Steve Harvey, in his element, impeccably dressed in a charcoal gray suit, his signature smile radiating the charm and warmth that has made him beloved across the country. The cameras are positioned to capture every laugh, every celebration, every moment of family-friendly entertainment that viewers expect from their daily dose of Family Feud. Today's contestants are the Rodriguez family from Phoenix, Arizona, facing off against the Williams family from Detroit, Michigan. It's supposed to be standard fare, 2 American families competing in good-natured rivalry for prizes and bragging rights, the comfortable format that has entertained generations. But watch carefully as a soft-spoken, elderly African-American man steps up to the podium. At first glance, Robert Williams looks like any other contestant, a quiet, dignified gentleman in his late 60s, wearing his best Sunday clothes for his moment on television. What you don't know yet is that this humble man has been carrying one of the most beautiful secrets in American education for 30 years. You can see something different in his demeanor as he introduces his family, his wife Martha, his daughter Patricia, his son-in-law Marcus, and his teenage granddaughter Ashley. There's a gentleness in his voice, a careful way of speaking that suggests someone who chooses his words with thoughtful precision. His hands are clean but weathered, showing the evidence of decades of honest work. Steve greets him with his usual enthusiasm, but notice how he seems to sense something special about this particular contestant. "Now, Mr. Williams, tell me what you do for a living." "I'm a janitor at Lincoln Elementary School in Detroit," Robert says with quiet pride. "Been there 31 years next month." The audience responds with warm applause, the kind of appreciation Americans have for honest, hard work. But what they don't know, what nobody in that studio knows, is that Robert Williams isn't just a janitor. He's been operating as a one-man scholarship fund for 3 decades, using his modest wages to secretly transform the lives of countless students. Watch the first 3 rounds proceed normally, with survey questions about everyday topics and the familiar rhythm of competitive family fun. Robert participates thoughtfully, his answers revealing an intelligent man with deep insights into human nature. But pay attention to how his eyes light up whenever questions touch on education, children, or helping others. During the commercial break before the 4th round, something extraordinary happens behind the scenes that will change the trajectory of this entire episode. A production assistant approaches Steve with a note that one of the contestants has an unusual story he'd like to share if time permits. When the cameras roll again, Steve makes the decision that will turn a game show into something much more meaningful. Instead of jumping straight into the next round, he turns toward Robert with that intuitive compassion that has made him more than just an entertainer. "Now, Mr. Williams, I understand you've got something special you'd like to share with us. What's that about?" Robert takes a deep breath, his weathered hands gripping the podium slightly. For 30 years, he's kept this secret, never seeking recognition or acknowledgement. But something about this moment, this platform, feels like the right time to let America know what quiet heroism looks like. Well, Mr. Harvey, he begins, his voice steady but emotional. I've been working at Lincoln Elementary for 31 years, and in all that time, I've seen a lot of bright children who deserve chances they might not otherwise get. Steve nods encouragingly, sensing there's much more to this story. Tell me more about that, Mr. Williams. What happens next will be replayed millions of times and become one of the most shared moments in television history. Every night, when I empty the trash cans in the classrooms, Robert continues, I see papers that teachers throw away, tests, essays, homework assignments, and sometimes I see work that's so good, so creative, so full of potential, that I can't bear to let it disappear forever. The studio begins to quiet as audience members sense they're about to hear something extraordinary. So I started keeping some of those papers, Robert says, his voice gaining strength. I take them home, read them, and try to learn about the children who wrote them. And when I found students with real talent, kids who were smart and hardworking but whose families couldn't afford college, I started saving my money to help them. Steve's expression transforms completely as he realizes the magnitude of what he's hearing. Mr. Williams, are you telling me you've been giving scholarships to students? Yes, sir, Robert replies with simple honesty. For the past 30 years, I've been setting aside money from every paycheck. My wife Martha and I live very simply, and we decided long ago that we'd rather help children reach their potential than spend money on ourselves. We've helped send 43 students to college over the years. The audience gasps collectively as the full weight of his words sinks in. You're witnessing 300 people realize they're in the presence of genuine, selfless heroism. 43 students? Steve asks, his voice thick with emotion. Mr. Williams, how much of your salary have you been giving away? Robert pauses, as if he's never really calculated the personal cost of his generosity. Usually about 60% of what I earn. We kept enough for our basic needs, and put the rest toward helping kids achieve their dreams. The silence in the studio is profound. Steve Harvey, who has seen every kind of human story in his decades of television hosting, finds himself facing something unprecedented. A man who has quietly revolutionized dozens of lives, while asking for nothing in return. Sir, Steve says, stepping closer to Robert, you're telling me that for 30 years you've been living on 40% of your income so you could send other people's children to college. Those children became our children the moment we decided to help them, Robert replies. Martha and I never had kids of our own, but we've had 43 sons and daughters who just didn't know we were their parents until they got that scholarship letter. Watch as the cameras capture the tears beginning to flow throughout the studio. This isn't the performative emotion of television. This is the authentic response of human beings encountering goodness so pure, it transcends entertainment to become something sacred. But you're about to witness something even more extraordinary. Unknown to Robert, the show's producers had been contacted by several of his scholarship recipients, who had somehow learned about his appearance and wanted to surprise the man who changed their lives. Steve glances toward the side of the stage and nods to his production team. Mr. Williams, I want you to know that sometimes when you spend 30 years changing lives, those lives find a way to say thank you. The studio doors open, and one by one, young professionals begin walking onto the stage. A doctor in her white coat, a teacher carrying a small American flag, an engineer with blueprints under his arm, a social worker with a warm smile, a lawyer in a sharp suit, all of them walking toward the man who made their dreams possible. Mr. Robert, the doctor says, her voice breaking, I'm Dr. Sarah Johnson. You sent me to medical school in I've saved over 2,000 lives since then, and every single one of them was possible because you believed in a little girl from Detroit who found calculus homework in the trash. Robert's composure finally breaks as he recognizes the young woman he helped 25 years ago, now a successful physician, giving back to her community. His wife Martha, watching from the family area, covers her mouth with her hands as tears stream down her face. The teacher steps forward next. Mr. Robert, I'm Michael Torres. You helped me become the first person in my family to graduate from college. I've been teaching for 15 years now, and I tell my students about the janitor angel who saved my future every single semester. One by one, each scholarship recipient shares their story, how they discovered the mysterious scholarship letter in their locker, how it arrived exactly when their families had given up hope of affording college, how they graduated and built careers they never thought possible. The engineer unrolls his blueprints to reveal the plans for the new Lincoln Elementary School library wing, a building he designed pro bono and named the Robert Williams Learning Center. This is what happened because you believed in me, Mr. Robert. Now every student at Lincoln will have a library worthy of their dreams. You're watching Robert Williams realize for the first time the full scope of his impact. Each student he helped didn't just receive an education, they became educators, healers, builders, and leaders who multiplied his investment in humanity exponentially. Steve Harvey, visibly moved, addresses both Robert and the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what real wealth looks like. This man spent 30 years living like a poor man so he could make other people rich. Not with money, but with opportunity, education, and hope. The social worker, a young woman named Angela, pulls out a thick folder. Mr. Robert, we did some research. The 43 students you've helped have gone on to become teachers, doctors, lawyers, engineers, social workers, and business owners. Collectively, we've taught over 12,000 children, treated over 5,000 patients, built hundreds of structures, and helped thousands of families. Your investment has touched tens of thousands of lives. But the most powerful moment comes when Ashley, Robert's teenage granddaughter, steps forward from the family area. Grandpa, she says, her voice strong and clear, I always wondered why we lived so simply when you worked so hard. Now I understand. You weren't just a janitor. You were a dream maker. And you taught me that the most important thing you can do with your life is help other people build theirs. Steve turns to the audience, his voice carrying the weight of profound truth. This is what we're looking at, folks. This is what we're looking at, folks. This is what happens when one person decides that other people's dreams matter more than their own comfort. This is how you change the world, one student at a time, one scholarship at a time, one act of quiet generosity at a time. The standing ovation that follows isn't the typical game show applause. It's 300 people recognizing they've vivenced something that will change how they think about success, generosity, and the power of education to transform lives. Dr. Johnson steps forward again, pulling out an envelope. Mr. Robert, all of your scholarship recipients have stayed in touch over the years. We've been planning this surprise for months. We've established the Robert Williams Education Foundation with an initial endowment of $500,000. Now your work can continue forever. But Robert isn't finished surprising everyone. He reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a worn notebook, its pages filled with handwriting that shows 3 decades of careful record-keeping. I kept track of every child I helped, he says, opening the notebook to reveal page after page of names, dates, and brief notes. I wrote down their dreams when I gave them the scholarship, and I've been praying for each one of them every single night since. He begins reading from the notebook. Sarah Johnson wants to be a doctor to help children who are sick. Michael Torres wants to teach because his 3rd-grade teacher changed his life. Angela Washington wants to help families stay together. As Robert reads each name and dream, that person steps forward, showing that every single scholarship recipient achieved exactly what they set out to accomplish. It's a perfect record of dreams fulfilled, a 30-year testament to the power of believing in human potential. Steve Harvey sets down his microphone and pulls Robert into an embrace that encompasses not just the man but everything he represents. Sir, Steve says, his voice breaking, you didn't just change 43 lives, you changed the world. You proved that heroes don't need titles or recognition, They just need hearts big enough to see potential in other people and the courage to invest in it. The episode that aired 3 weeks later became the most watched Family Feud in television history. But its impact extended far beyond ratings. Within days, the Robert Williams Education Foundation had received over $2 million in donations from viewers inspired by his story. Lincoln Elementary School renamed their building the Robert Williams Academy, and the principal announced that every custodial staff member would receive training to help identify students who might need additional support. The Janitor Scholarship Program spread to school districts across the country, recognizing that sometimes the people who know students best are the ones who see them in the hallways, not just the classrooms. Robert continued working at Lincoln Elementary for 3 more years before retiring, and at his farewell ceremony, over 300 former students filled the auditorium to thank the man who had quietly shaped their destinies. The ceremony concluded with Ashley Williams, now a freshman at Michigan State University on a full academic scholarship, reading her grandfather's philosophy aloud. Education is the only investment that pays dividends forever. When you help one person learn, you help everyone they'll ever teach, heal, build, or serve. The greatest wealth is not what you accumulate for yourself, but what you make possible for others. Robert Williams passed away peacefully 5 years later, surrounded by his wife Martha and dozens of his scholarship children, who had become his extended family. At his funeral, Dr. Sarah Johnson delivered the eulogy, ending with words that captured the essence of his legacy. He spent his career cleaning up after others, but what he really did was clean up the world. He took out the trash of limited opportunity and replaced it with the treasure of unlimited potential. He swept away barriers and mopped up tears. But most importantly, he polished dreams until they shone bright enough to light the way for others. The Robert Williams Education Foundation continues to operate today, having awarded over 5,000 scholarships to deserving students. But perhaps the most lasting impact of his story isn't measured in dollars or degrees. It's in the millions of people who learned that heroism doesn't require recognition, that generosity doesn't require wealth, and that the most powerful way to change the world is to help one person at a time discover what they're capable of becoming. Watch this story, share this story, and remember that somewhere right now, there's a janitor, a bus driver, a cafeteria worker, or a security guard who sees potential in a student that nobody else notices. Your awareness, your support, your willingness to recognize the quiet heroes around you. That's how we honor Robert Williams and ensure his legacy continues. Because every student deserves someone who believes in them, every dream deserves an investment, and every act of quiet kindness deserves to be celebrated. Robert Williams proved that you don't need to be wealthy to make others rich. You don't need a title to be a leader, and you don't need recognition to be a hero. Sometimes the most important person in a school isn't the principal, the teachers, or the counselors. Sometimes it's the person with the keys who unlocks potential, the person with the mop who cleans up barriers, and the person with the biggest heart who sees treasure where others see trash. This is the story of the janitor who became a scholarship, the custodian who became a dream maker, and the quiet man who proved that the most powerful education happens not in classrooms, but in moments when one human being decides that another human being's future is worth investing in.